Hey guys, welcome back. We are on part 1 of our Discovery Refit build, and we're going to get to work on those nacelles. Now, before we do anything to them, I like to test fit the nacelles and see exactly what we're dealing with here. So we just put the two halves together, and we look at our seam. That is our major player. We have to examine that thing thoroughly, and I can tell right off the bat that there is a huge step on the inboard side of this nacelle. This is the port side nacelle, I believe. And yeah, there's not a lot of straightness to it either, but that can't be helped. I'm really more concerned with the step, and it's really bad along this part where it connects to the pylon. So a lot of sanding, a lot of filing in our future. During the intro build, I talked about mold release, and what I meant by that is sometimes when the molds aren't properly handled or filled, or the plastic hasn't settled enough or cured enough, I'm actually not quite sure what causes it, but you'll get these lovely little divots in your plastic here. This kit has some of the worst I've ever seen, at least this version of it. I'm pointing out you got stuff up at the front, you've got stuff here, right there, right there. It's really bad, guys. There are even ones at the top of the nacelles. I've actually never seen this before. And there's one on a nice complex curve right here that we're going to have to work around somehow. These two are especially bad right here. And this is the most egregious one I've ever seen. It's just huge. We also have some in the actual detail on the outboard of the nacelles. There's a pretty big divot in that one and a pretty big one in this one. With all that fine detail in there, I have no clue how I'm even going to get rid of those. I think they're just going to unfortunately have to stay. I want to light up part of these front caps to the nacelles. They go in between the two halves. I want to light up basically the recesses and our blue crystal here. I'm not quite sure I'm going to do this yet. I'll have to have a little bit of a think on this one here. I've got the two nacelle halves together to address the step, the horrible step on this thing. It took a good 2 hours to get rid of the step on this and the other nacelle, and then when I put the two halves together again later on, I kept discovering little places where that step would reappear. I'm mainly doing this to prevent from having to do this later on when the paint's already down. So this is kind of a preemptive strike on this step. Now it's time to do one of the major modifications to this build. We are going to get in here and remove all of this material. I'm going to be using my Dremel tool. Actually, it's my grandpa's Dremel tool, probably from the 70s. But we're going to get in here with this nice tip I'm about to show you and remove all of that plastic. Now we're going to try to be very careful in getting all this plastic. Careful to get all the plastic out, and we'll file what we have left over. Now that the majority of our plastic has been removed with our Dremel tool, we need to clean those edges. We're going to start off here with these emery boards of various grit, and then we're going to go back in with our microfiles here. I love these microfiles. I cannot stress enough how important these are. I just picked these up on Amazon for probably 10 bucks years ago, and I love these things. You get various different sizes and shapes. These are a lifesaver. Go and pick yourself up some of these if you don't have any. As you can see, that turned out pretty good. Our microfiles made short work of those things. I've got them all pretty much squared off to where I want them. Didn't take quite as long as I thought it would. This tool right here was the workhorse of this. One side is flat, but the other side is curved. Now that curve was almost exactly the curve I needed to get into those corners or round them off at exactly the angle I needed them to be. As you can see, they just fit right in there. Made short work of those curves. I need to know where to cut holes out for those extrusions on the nacelles. I'm just using the kit supplied decal here to line everything up. Probably won't be using it as it's from 1982 and I have others. I just need to get an idea of where to start cutting those little holes to put my LED in. And here's what these holes look like after I'm done drilling, sanding, and filing. Once all the holes have been cut, I now need to build details to go over them. So I'm just measuring out here on a little piece of styrene what the tops of these will be. I think it's a couple centimeters here. We'll be cutting these out with our X-Acto blade. And here's what they look like all assembled. I still have to go back in and sand and file and fine tune them, but these are our basic shapes. Now that our sanding, filing, and fine tuning are done, I went in and painted the inside of these things with some Maltov chrome pen just to get some more reflection going on. And here they are on the model. As you can see, I've been doing some filling with my spot and glazing putty. That little thing is still there and will remain there, and it will annoy me to no end for the rest of my life. But those things turned out pretty good. I got most of this taken care of as of this point. You can see quite a bit of work to do there on these. And I do have to remove that piece right there. But first, we're going to get some primer on these things and see how much more work we have to do. Our first round of primer is done, and we can still see some places where I need to go back in and re-putty. This one up here had that huge divot in it. You can still kind of see it. Up there was fine. I just wanted to rescribe in some of those detail lines. You can see on this piece here, it leaves a blank spot, and I didn't like how that looked. So we'll be going through each of these nacelles in various places and rescribing those guys back in. Turning my attention to the secondary hull, I want to get all these windows drilled out. The major windows are going to be your oval shapes. You can see two of them at the forward part of the port hull here, and of course that giant arboretum window. We'll be doing something a little different with that arboretum window. I've also drilled out all the windows on the neck plus one. At the back of the neck you can see there's an extra window. I will be putting that red window in as I've developed a little bit of a obsession with that stupid thing. And then there's this. This. Yeah, that's huge. We'll have to be filling that one. Has some putty on the neck here. Both sides of this thing had considerable divots. I've also been working on the secondary hull. The fantail on this side, on the starboard side, had a big old divot in it, and there's one right in the center of our grid line right there. Actually, there's two. The port side fared a little bit better, just a couple of places to fill in. And as you can see, I'm cutting out that arboretum window. I changed my mind on that. I cut the entire thing out. I'll just be filling the back slats with some styrene. I've been doing work on the deflector dish here. I have some light blocking in place. I went inside and just coated this thing with that Maltov pen. As you can see, that reflection is nice. I just wanted a little bit in there. I had an old flashlight that I took apart, and it had this thing in it to help get more light on the flashlight, which is kind of what I'm going to be doing with it here. I've had to sand it. I've been sanding and sanding and sanding, and as you see me fiddling with it here, there's still a little bit more that could be done. It's not quite perfect, but it fits in there, kinda, sorta. Just have to be sanding it a little bit more. This flashlight is way brighter than the LEDs I'm going to put in here. Also, we have the problem of the camera just blowing the thing out. But in person, it does give you that nice little spot, and then the gradient of light off to the sides. You'll just have to trust me when I say this works perfectly if cameras weren't involved. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week, you guys. As you can see, I've got a little bit more paint on there, and that arboretum window is gone. So, next week we're going to be working on this a little bit more. We're going to be cutting into that primary hull, which brings the fear, but we're going to do it anyways. So, thank you guys for watching, and until next week, you guys take care.